Hello, Aszure Gray, and this is the Power of Us podcast. Today, my guest, Leslie Bailey from Indie Maven and Maven Space. Leslie is the co-founder and CEO of Indie Maven, a lifestyle media company for women, and Maven Space, a female-forward co-working and event space in downtown Indianapolis. She's also been featured on the Forbes Next 1000 list, named one of Indiana's 250 most influential leaders, and received the National Association of Women Business Owners Indianapolis Rising Entrepreneur Award. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. So good to see you.
So good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today. I remember first meeting you and how refreshing Maven Space was to me. Loved the concept and loved the idea. Where did it come from?
I had seen spaces like Maven Space, female forward co-working spaces popping up around the country. And, you know, the most notable or well-known one is called The Wing, and they had not a really pretty ending, but I thought I like a lot of that concept. And it was during COVID that I had the idea that we should have something like this in Indianapolis. So I had other businesses to look at and to see what I could do right and, you know, what they were doing wrong and hopefully tweaking for our kind of Hoosier hospitality market. And so we opened 2.5 years ago.
Congratulations. What's been the most challenging part for you with growing your business along the way?
Well, both businesses I bootstrapped, and I'm glad I did it that way. I wish that I think the challenge was I was so scared, and which I think is the case for a lot of women. I was so scared to take on debt, to go out and look for money. The whole process was overwhelming. So I started Indie Maven with $1,000, and you know, I got a small loan here. I got a little bit of money from a friend who invested, and that was kind of it. And it really wasn't enough. And I think that the challenge was that I was always scraping because I was just so afraid in the beginning, right? Because we hear debt is bad. You know, I know so much more now in my journey as an entrepreneur. I think I could have made my life easier, maybe not had I not been so scared to go look for loans or funding or money.
You know, I hear that from a lot of women, and I experienced that firsthand myself when you're in a place that you need to make this jump, but it seems there's a caution, an extra layer of caution that we naturally have due to tons of different factors in society, shall we say. But really good for you. And it sounds as if things are going well now. So I'm really glad to hear that. Can you share a pivotal moment, maybe either here or elsewhere in your career, that kind of helped define the way you approach entrepreneurship now?
Early on, when I launched Indie Maven, and I was working with someone who we had very different styles and very different lifestyles as well. And essentially the message, the way I interpreted it was like, you're not going to be successful if you do things that way. If you do things my way, that'll lead to success. And I sort of was like, oh, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. And I didn't allow myself, I wasn't very confident. And I allowed that to be true. And it was only when I stopped listening to that and was like, no, the only way this is going to work is if I do this my way and to fit my lifestyle. And then it worked. But I felt like I was swimming upstream trying to do it somebody else's way. Mm-hmm. And I just think I learned that lesson very quickly. There's a lot of different ways that you can get to a goal or a result. And there is not just one path.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of a quote I read yesterday, or maybe it was a TikTok. A woman said, the only inappropriate thing to wear over 40 is other people's opinions.
Amen. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So go ahead and keep that one. It's not my original one, but
I love that.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So in your view, what's the most critical trait a female leader should possess in order to be successful?
I think ingenuity, just being able to, as women in general, we're the mothers literally of reinvention, right? And so I think just being able to be nimble and think on your feet and think out of the box. So I would say creativity falls into that. I think it's a little mixture. Everybody's going to put their own little spin on the recipe, but I think you have to have those core ingredients of, resilience and innovation and creativity, and then, a little bit of risk taking thrown in. And then you kind of customize it. But I think those are the few core pieces.
Yeah, I agree. Core ingredients. I like that. So you have a husband, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 14-year-old bonus son.
Yeah.
Oh, don't forget the slobbery mastiff.
And a big slobbery mastiff. And you know what? I guess I have to update my bio. They are now 4 and 6.
Okay.
So,
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You're in the thick of it. I know I am too. Wow is kind of all I can say to that. So how do you balance the demands of leadership, entrepreneurship, 2 businesses, and your family, the rest of and maybe that thing called personal care that people keep telling me about?
Right. Well, you mentioned like the first part. I have a very supportive partner, and that I'm very, I don't want to take that for granted, because I know that a lot of what I'm able to do is because I have that person in my life. But for people who don't, I always say, like, you can still go find that person. It might not be a romantic, it might not be a husband, it might not be a wife, it might not be a romantic, but finding that person who's willing to kind of get through it with you. So he definitely does that with me. I would say I'm just a huge nerd when it comes to productivity and organization. I'm that person that loves a checklist and loves a great highlighter and a pen. So I think that probably works for my best interest. I think people are so sick of hearing me talk about the lazy genius, Kendra Adachi, but I am like such a fangirl of hers. So she has a podcast and a couple books and a new book coming out. She's actually speaking at the Indiana Conference for Women here coming up in a couple months. So I'm very excited because I just got a ticket, and I've like met so many celebrities and like not cared, and the lazy genius is it for me. So, but just anyone who sort of can help make life easier and better. And that's what I hope I am also doing for my community and the one we have here with Indie Maven and Maven Space. But, I think that's all women need. We just need some support, some tricks, some hacks, give us a fighting chance here. So, it's the whole takes a village thing for sure.
Yeah. And also, you're a warrior, right? There really is no other way to think about it. What role has failure played for you when you think about your professional development, where you are? What was probably the biggest one that had the biggest impact? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. Well, I also want to go back to saying too, like a team behind you, right? Like I'm not doing this alone. So having an amazing team is a huge part. It's like behind every woman is just more amazing women, right? And so I'm fortunate to have that. But that means that there are also people who are like on a payroll, right, that I'm responsible for. And I remember going to a conference, and it was the first time that I really was like, oh, I don't know that I can make payroll today. And I felt it was the first day of the conference that I was there with other women, other entrepreneurs, other business owners, all about, abundance and manifesting and taking that and putting it into your business and just like all the good vibes. And I'm sitting at the pool. I'm like, I'm a failure. It's not working. And because at first I wasn't really telling anyone what was wrong, and I didn't want to like bring down the vibe. Finally it came out, and they were all just like, oh, that's why you're crying? Like, that's going to happen 10 more times, at least. Like, get used to it. And I was like, what? I was totally unprepared. So I guess to say that those things that feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this wrong. I've hit this huge pothole in the road. But also then realizing like there's still a whole road ahead of you. Yeah, you hit a pothole. It sucked. But then kind of I was catastrophizing because I did not know that was a common thing in business. Mm-hmm. Again, fast forward, I now know lots of people are not sure how they're going to make payroll all the time with their own businesses. I thought that I was unique and I was doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Because I was ready to quit. I'm like, oh, okay, so I guess this doesn't work. I guess I'll shut my business down. And they all kind of like laughed. And for a second I was like, rude. I'm telling you something that's horrible. And then talking to all of them, I'm like, oh, I get it. This does not mean the game is over.
Right. It's not winning and losing. It's winning and learning. Right. Exactly. It's how you get back up from something. So when did you have to make a really tough decision that was unpopular with the rest of the team, but you knew it was the right thing for your business or your family?
Yeah, we last year raised our prices of our membership community with Indie Maven. And the reason that we did that is because they were set too low to begin with. I did not actually set up to have a membership community. We started out to have a media platform. Very quickly, women started asking us, how can I join? How can I join? And I was like, it's a newsletter. You just sign up for it. And they're like, no, how can I join? Like this group that I see, this community that was just, I think women were so desperate for something like that. And so I was like, okay, I guess I looked into membership communities. They were just kind of starting to become popular. I was like, I guess we'll try that. I, put out the price very quick. I mean, it was so low. And then I was like, wait, that's bad math. So then we did very quickly, increase the price, but we had a small community at the time. It was a small jump. This one was like double, right? We went from $10 a month to $18 a month. It's still not astronomical.
No.
But, $200 a year. And especially in this, economic climate that we're in. So I still want to acknowledge that can be a lot of money. But I believe the value's there, and nobody likes having prices increased on them, but at the same time, I'm like, if we want this to continue to exist, it has to be sustainable. And in order for it to be sustainable, we have to be able to pay people. And in order to pay people, we have to charge for this. This is a service. This is, there's a lot that goes into that. And really taking a look at my tech stack and what really goes into this, because people think, oh, we just throw a post up on social media, and without realizing what goes into that and the number of people who are behind that. So
yeah.
Did I lose you? Well, I think we
nope.
Put up. Okay. And so that was not fun to go through, but honestly, it also was it didn't take we lost some people, but it didn't take long for us to build back up. We were at maybe 420 members, and we're now at 300. And that was over the course of a year. So I feel pretty good about that. I would love to see us get back up to that number. But at the same time, it's a tough year for people.
Agreed, in a lot of different ways. So let me ask you a little bit about a different aspect of your life. You served as a board member for Coburn Place for quite some time. Giving back's a big part of being successful and sharing what we've actually come across. So I'm curious, how do you give back? Is it mentoring? What is your way to impart these things onto other ambitious young women?
When I left the board, I actually left because I just wanted to go and volunteer in the linen pantry. I sit in meetings all day for my job, and I'd been doing that for, again, a number of years for Coburn Place. And I was like, I just want to go in and organize the pantry and do laundry and help set up apartments. And I loved it. I was so happy doing that work. Because I think sometimes you get a little tapped out when you're using your kind of volunteer time and giving back time, and you're doing what you already do. That can be exhausting on you. As much as it's nice to be able to use your skills for other people, I also just felt a little tapped out. So now I definitely have a number of people that I mentor, but really, trying to put that across the entire community, because then I can affect, more people and have an impact on more people. So I do office hours with the Indie Maven community, our programming. I still feel like I'm putting those things together because I'm helping pick who our programming guests are, putting together events. I'm looking to make a bigger impact as kind of just one person with this team around me. I decided that last year I was just stretched a little too thin, and it was time to get back to focusing on me, my family, and my business.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing right now, and then hoping that those businesses can have that broader impact.
Absolutely. Coburn Place has a great mission, so I am familiar with it, and just wanted to say that's a great way to utilize it. Sometimes not enough of us really get our hands dirty and go just, organize the pantry. So something to be said for that. So
I'm actually now too, I haven't added this, but I'm on an advocacy committee for the Women's Fund. And I went through their options program last year too. So really just exploring, and that was a great experience to explore all the different organizations that support girls and women in Indiana. And that is something, I think as in the next couple of years, as I get my little ones a little bit bigger and businesses, I'll probably get more back into those roles. But yeah.
I absolutely understand. I had to leave a board actually twice because of just life happening and coming at me pretty darn fast with some major things and changes. Let me ask you this. How do you continue to grow and develop as a leader? Are there particular resources, Lazy Genius you already shared, but anything else that you think we should be aware of or the community at large should?
Well, I think, I always express, I think, the importance of finding a community, which we offer in both Indie Maven and Maven Space. But I also needed to find a community outside of that for me, where I could go and talk about my business struggles to other people who aren't intimately familiar with what I do. And the 10th House is one of those that I'm a part of. So that is a national group founded by Rebecca Minkoff, the fashion designer, and Allie Wyatt, I believe is her name. And they've been a great resource. I kind of need to get back into that. But I love, I was also part of the Female Founders Collective, NAWBO locally, or, they have national chapters as well. NAWBO has been a great organization to be a part of, networking with, the women and the folks at the Women's Fund has been huge. And then I'm a big fan of continuing education, which is funny because, when you're a realtor or a doctor, like those things are set up for you, your CE hours. And when you're an entrepreneur, you need to just figure that out yourself. I recently finished a course called Newsletter Operator. A guy, Matt, organizes this, and I learned more about newsletters than I thought I could ever know, which was great because that's one of the elements of my business. So always just seeking different. I'm a bit of a course junkie. I kind of have to try and limit myself because I will be the person that signs up for every seminar and webinar, et cetera, et cetera. I'm also part of a group called Everything Co-working. So for the co-working side of things, they're a great community. Jamie Russo runs that. So she's a coach and a consultant. And then I have this community as well as the Luminary Partner Network. So Luminary is a female forward, but all-inclusive co-working space in New York. And they have put together a network of other female forward co-working spaces across the country. So I have that group as well. So I seek, beyond Indianapolis. And it's so nice now living in the time we live in where you can have those communities virtually.
Agreed. The fact that they even exist, it says something about the time that we're in, all positive. Yeah. So let me ask you, what advice would you give to young females who want to be an entrepreneur?
I'm passionate about this. We have a lot of different interns every semester. We've had so many great interns, but there's always that learning curve. I think just showing up for one, right? Mm-hmm. Showing up with enthusiasm, speaking up, saying something, contribute. You have this opportunity where if you have an opportunity to have a seat at a table, you need to use it. Because not all of us always had that, right? And talking in a number of different directions.
Right.
So, that is a privilege, and you need to use. It's a privilege and it's an opportunity, and don't. And
it's a responsibility too.
It's a responsibility, yeah. And it's not that hard to be impressive. And so, and I get it. It's not easy if you're the other at the table and speaking up. And I totally get all of that. There are challenges there. But what can you do to overcome those? Because the option of just sitting still and quiet and not saying anything and not showing up, that's not an option at all. What's the point? So just, kind of taking the opportunity to be a presence somewhere, that's a gift, and to maximize that.
Absolutely. You just showed all of why you're a guest today. So I'm going to take us into, thank you so much for all of the wisdom you've imparted. But one final question that goes to all of my guests. What lesson learned recently or a long time ago is serving you best in your life right now? Professionally, personally, what lesson learned is really having an impact right now?
Trusting your gut 100% will always be the lesson that I will remind myself over and over again. Anytime I haven't done that, it's been a mistake. I actually was listening to Marie Forleo's podcast the other day, and she had Barbara Corcoran from the Corcoran Group and Shark Tank. And she actually said the same thing. And I was so validating because she talked about the times where everyone in a deal told her that it wasn't the right deal. I'm working on a deal right now where mostly everybody's, in support, but there was someone who wasn't. And I was like, you know what? You don't have to be. My gut is telling me that this is the thing that I need to do. And that's stronger than whatever you have to say. So I'm going to go ahead and follow that. And I was like, really like trying to give myself the confidence. And when I heard her say that, I mean, she sold her company for $66 million, also started out with $1,000.
Wow.
So when I heard that was even more validating, that I felt like I was on the right track. And when you listen to your gut and intuition, you start to find breadcrumbs like that, where I think the universe, I'm a big believer that the universe is telling you to follow those and a path to go on. So as long as I stick with that, typically it has always worked out in my favor.
Absolutely great. What a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us today, Leslie. I mean, just thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
And you have been absolutely wonderful. I knew that you would have some great things to share, and I was right. I love it when I'm right because I need validation too. I hate that I need it, but I do. So thank you. Thank you very much. And I will go ahead and just say, everyone, that is the end of Power of Us for today. And I'm your host, Aszure Gray. All for today.